Tens of thousands of residents remaining in shelters tonight as President Barack Obama declares several Louisiana parishes major disaster areas. While here in San Diego, firefighters are on high alert as temperatures, low humidity, drought, parched vegetation increase the risk of fire for the region.
Mental in our sport is, I would literally say, 90% of the game. It's you against yourself, really. You're your own best friend or you're your own worst enemy.
Olympic hopefuls getting race ready. The Carlsbad psychologist who plays a critical role in their training. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Temperatures soaring in San Diego today. Triple-digit heat hitting parts of the county right now. Two different pictures of hot weather up and down the Golden State. San Diego residents are finding some relief by the bay. And in Northern California, a fast-moving wildfire has burned down at least 175 buildings, including a historic firehouse. San Diego County's mountains and valleys are on the grips of high fire danger. The National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning through Wednesday night. CAL FIRE crews are responding to at least 9 major fires in the state today. Critically dry vegetation combined with 100-degree temperatures, low humidity levels, and strong winds are huge concerns among the firefighting community. Firefighters say the region's drought-parched canyons and slopes are primed to burn.
You're not immune to wildfires anywhere in this county. If it starts, it has the potential of being a very damaging wildfire no matter where you live. So the important thing to remember is to be aware of that and know that you need to have all of the plans in place, have good evacuation planning, your evacuation kit.
So far this year, 4,000 fires have burned across the state, leaving 8 people dead and more than 300 homes destroyed. The heat advisory has been extended to the deserts until tomorrow. We'll see just how long the heat wave is expected to last in tonight's KPBS weather report. That's in about 10 minutes. 2 weeks ago, the San Diego City Council voted to put a proposal on the November ballot to send the top 2 candidates in June primaries to November general elections, regardless of whether any candidate achieves a majority. Currently, candidates for mayor, city attorney, and city council win outright in June if they receive more than half the vote. This 5-4 vote along party lines outraged Republicans who accuse the council's Democratic majority of backing the measure for partisan gain. As part of our News and Numbers series, Joe Girardi joins us now. He dug into the data to find out whether that's true. Joe, this was a controversial move. Can you explain why?
The conventional wisdom says that the electorate in November general elections is more liberal than the electorate in June primaries. So if every local race has to go through the November electorate, that'll help Democrats. We at iNewsSource wanted to test that assumption.
And what did you find out?
So the partisan makeup of the electorate does change a lot between a primary and a general within the same year. But how it changes is interesting. The share of the electorate that's Republican declines between a primary and a general, but they're not replaced by Democrats. Instead, they're replaced by independent voters.
And can you give us an example?
2012. 2012 saw the biggest turnout of the past 4 cycles. More than 750,000 voters turned out between the primary and general elections. In the general, Democrats made up 42% of the vote, down just 1 point from the primary. But Republicans made up just 31%. Down 7 points from the primary. And independents, they made up 24% of the vote in November, up 7 points from June. So the independent share of the vote rose by the same amount the Republican share fell.
Okay, so the November electorate is more independent and less Republican than the June. What do we know about these independent voters?
So I spoke with a local independent elections analyst who's done a lot of research on voter demographics. He said these voters tended to be younger, more racially diverse, more transient, all groups that tend to favor Democrats, and could make it more of a challenge for Republicans in tight districts to find their way into office.
You say it could make it more of a challenge, not that it will. Why is that?
Yeah, well, many of these independents come out to vote for only one or two high-profile candidates or ballot questions. Think of voters who only come out to vote for the presidential candidate, for example. There's no guarantee they'll bother to vote in contests further down the ballot, like a city council race. And so that would temper the advantage that Democrats might otherwise get from these voters showing up.
iNews Source reporter Joe Girardi, thank you very much. California's proposed Adult Use of Marijuana Act has suffered a blow in court. A high court in the state ruled in favor of opponents of the bill. They claimed the marijuana initiative will likely expose youth to cannabis advertisement on TV.
We were able to go into court and prove that, yes, in fact, 95% of all primetime shows, in fact, 95% of all broadcast shows are going to be open to marijuana smoking ads.
Voters will be weighing in on whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana in November. The old library in San Diego's Skyline Hills neighborhood was demolished today to make room for its replacement. At about 15,000 square feet, the new library will be more than 3 times bigger than the old one. The city says the $13.2 million project will include a multi-purpose area, an outdoor reading patio, and areas for children and teens, and a computer lab. It's scheduled to open in October. A popular San Diego gathering place is set to become an overnight destination. The historic barracks at Liberty Station are being transformed into a 90-room boutique hotel. The NTC Foundation says the $20 million project will restore 8 of the 10 remaining buildings. The specialty hotel will be co-owned and operated by Untitled Hospitality. Construction is set to begin next year. A California lawmaker says she's introducing legislation to boost the number of electric cars on the state's roads by requiring that 15% of all new vehicles sold in the state be emission-free in less than a decade. Proponents of the bill say it will push manufacturers to make cheaper zero-emission cars.
Or I have a district that is extremely wealthy, that has access to those, to zero-emission vehicles, and then I have a portion of my district that has struggled to attain those vehicles.
Governor Jerry Brown's goal is to have 1.5 million zero-emission cars on the road by 2025. The California Air Resources Board says just over 192,000 zero-emission vehicles have been sold since 2010. California lawmakers are pushing to give women better access to birth control. A proposed measure requires insurers to cover a 12-month supply of birth control at one time. That's instead of the usual 30, 90-day amounts. Doctors say missing even one dose can undo months of usage. Bill supporters say the change would lower the potential for skipped doses and therefore prevent more unintended pregnancies. A synthetic fertilizer polluting California's groundwater isn't easy to remove. Experts say the byproduct of a synthetic fertilizer seeps into the ground and can be harmful to infants. A new UC Davis study finds even if the state's agricultural businesses stopped using the synthetic fertilizer, the problem wouldn't immediately go away. The nitrogen-based pollutant is linked to blue baby syndrome, which impacts the infant's ability to move oxygen in the bloodstream. Parts of the Deep South are underwater today. A flood has forced 11,000 plus people to seek shelter. Parts of Baton Rouge and its suburbs are some of the hardest hit areas. Officials say about 20,000 people have been evacuated. An estimated 2,000 plus evacuees are staying in a large film studio complex turned makeshift shelter. President Barack Obama has declared several affected parishes major disaster areas. Folsom Folsom Lake in Northern California is practically dry following several months of water releases by the federal government. The water from the lakes are released to put more water in the rivers for endangered fish. But as Midori Sparandio reports, some of Northern Californians say this time the government has gone too far.
Just 5 months ago, signs of a bitter drought were drowned out by a winter of heavy rain and snowfall. Today, the plentiful water is gone. Since July, federal officials have kicked up their routine water releases, flushing 5,000 cubic feet of water per second from the lake. That's the equivalent of 3,700 basketballs.
This whole area used to be underwater, including these buoys. Families came here to play near the beach. Now it's a dry desert wasteland.
The lake has been drained to just 40% of its capacity. In March, it was at 90%.
This is heartbreaking. It's so barren.
Many residents are frustrated that the government would flush so much water away.
What's the purpose? What is the purpose of doing this? I don't understand. And I don't know if it's for the fish. That's what I've been told. But at the same time, look what it's doing to our lake.
Right now, we're making releases to ensure water temperatures in the river are acceptable for salmon that may be in the river. Downstream water quality in the delta.
But critics say the need to protect fish appears to be overriding the needs of people, and there's a better way to manage water so that there's enough to go around for everyone.
Whether you're talking about our massive macro infrastructure like water storage, groundwater storage, but also regional water projects such as stormwater capture, wastewater treatment, even desal. There is so much out there we could be doing.
Federal agencies are studying how they manage California's water, but that won't be finished for 2 years. So until they decide how to move forward, there will be more dry days ahead for Folsom and other state reservoirs. Near the state capitol, Midori Sparandio reporting.
It has been a hot couple of days, and it looks like that heat is here to stay. Heather Waldman has that and more in tonight's forecast.
Well, a big area of high pressure over the Four Corners is not only keeping much of the southwest dry, it's also pumping some serious desert heat farther up to the north. We're just getting a little piece of that in Southern California. Coastal areas have stayed a little bit more comfortable, but you go 10 to 15 miles inland. Temperatures in places like Los Angeles were in the 90s this afternoon. Tonight, we'll see some fog settle in very late. Temperatures in the metro area close to 70 degrees, maybe feeling a little bit milder down by the water. 68 tonight in Chula Vista, 65 in Poway. As you go farther into the higher elevations, we'll look at 60 in Mount Laguna, 60 in Ramona, but even that's pretty mild for this time of the year. Mid-70s in Borrego Springs, even 80 degrees in Mecca. Lows in places like Vegas and Phoenix will stay in the 80s tonight as well. So a warm start to the day for our inland areas, the mountains into the deserts, but the coast is going to remain cool over the next couple of days. That marine layer in part helping with that. We'll see some clouds around in the morning. Eventually, that'll give way to sunshine later in the afternoon, but because of the slower start with the sunshine, temperatures will be held back a little bit. Central Valley is still expected to climb into the 90s. Later on this week, all of the moisture is going to remain focused to the east of the Rockies. Instead, high pressure controlling things. It's not going to be quite as hot, but definitely still above average in many of our inland locations. Here's the forecast for the coast over the next few days. Areas of low clouds, maybe a little bit of fog along the immediate coast, eventually giving way to sunshine each afternoon. Temperatures a little bit above normal, 84 Tuesday and Wednesday, back down into the upper 70s by the end of this week. So again, that high is going to back off with a weaker southerly breeze, not going to be quite as hot. Same goes for inland areas. We'll be close to the triple digits on Tuesday, 95 Wednesday, and then we slowly watch the temperatures wane through the rest of the week, turning out sunny each afternoon with maybe some low clouds in to start the day. A lot of sunshine on Saturday. Temperatures will stay in the upper 80s that afternoon, so pretty comfortable weather coming up next weekend. Temperatures will stay in the middle 60s each of the next couple of nights. Into the mountains, same pattern. A hot start to this week with highs in the 90s. We'll get back closer to average by Friday into Saturday with highs in the 80s. Overnight lows will be in the mid-50s. Expecting plenty of sunshine each of the next few days. Quick peek at the forecast in the deserts. Sweltering heat, 112 on Tuesday, 109 Wednesday. And we turn the temperatures down just a few degrees Friday into Saturday. That sunshine still brilliant. It's definitely still going to feel hot in the afternoon, so you certainly want to take it easy and stay hydrated, especially during the first half of the week. Heather Waldman, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, our Politics Monday panel gets you up to speed on the latest in the race for the White House. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
He's out!
That was the final out of Parkview's dramatic 1-0 win over Mountain Ridge of Las Vegas Saturday night. With the win, the Chula Vista team is headed back to the Little League World Series. Parkview won the Little League World Series in 2009. The team left Williamsport, Pennsylvania early Sunday morning. Their first game of the series is on Friday at 1 in the afternoon. A watch party is scheduled at OG's in Chula Vista. She came to the Olympics with something to prove, that Muslim women can thrive in sports. She's heading back to the U.S. with the proof. Associated Press reporter Adam Pimble introduces the U.S. bronze winner in the saber competition.
Thanks.
Ibtihaj Mohammed came to the Olympics determined to show the world that Muslim American women can excel in sports. She'll return to the U.S., proof in hand that she was right. Mohammed won a bronze in team saber fencing Saturday. Mohammed also gained notoriety as the first Olympian to wear a hijab during competition, in line with her Muslim beliefs.
If I can, with my story, inspire the youth out there to be involved in sports where they may be, they may be one of very few athletes who look like them, then I feel like I've done my job. I want people to be comfortable in spaces where they may not feel included.
Her identity as an athlete goes beyond wearing a hijab and her religious beliefs. Mohammed is now a high-profile ambassador for the sport of fencing. Recently, she sparred Michelle Obama in New York's Times Square and has been named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. So after all this, what's next for Mohammed? She's a little coquettish on the subject.
I've always said that all I needed was one Olympics and I would feel fulfilled as an athlete, but now that I have this medal and I feel, that beautiful feeling of winning, maybe, just maybe, I'll go out for another Olympic Games. Just maybe.
Mohammed's been recently ranked number 2 in the U.S. in fencing and number 8 in the world. Adam Pemble, Associated Press, Rio de Janeiro.
Most Olympians have been training their bodies for years, even decades. But KPBS reporter Claire Trageser tells us for some athletes, training their minds is just as important. She reports from the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista.
Brooke Crane is having a rough morning. It's less than 2 weeks until her Olympic bike race. She rides her kid-sized bike down a 26-foot ramp and around a curving hilly track at speeds up to 40 miles per hour. Country music blares in the background. Then she crashes.
I don't think I've crashed this much in like a whole year.
Crane took a few more laps, but the crash was still rattling her. Her coaches jumped in to help.
Really only got to beat 15 girls. It can't be that hard.
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say you have to beat anybody. It's really just like when you show up, you bring all of who you are on that gate, and when you execute at your best ability, it's a non-issue who you beat.
Crane is from Visalia and has been riding bicycle motocross or BMX since she was 6 years old. Now she's 23 and a favorite to win a medal in Rio.
I couldn't imagine life without it, but at the same time, I've never gotten on a gate where I don't have a little bit of fear and, inside.
After that starting gate, Crane races around a dirt track with 7 other women. They fly off 40-foot jumps and around steep banked turns.
BMX racing, it's not a mellow sport, There's no rules. Like you can hit somebody on the track and ruin somebody's day. And there's been lots of people who they crash and they're out for months at a time.
Crane competed in the 2012 Olympics and crashed. She came in last. But now she's training not just her body.
Mental in our sport is, I would literally say, 90% of the game. It's you against yourself, really. You're your own best friend or you're your own worst enemy.
When thrown into, by choice or otherwise, into a stressful state, like competing in the Olympics or competing to get in the Olympics, a lot of times those we're triggered. That fear response, that anxious response is triggered.
Jason Richardson is Crane's sports psychologist. She's hired him along with her physical training coach to help her mental game.
So what we try to do is create a strategy around some of those positive things so that we can use those tools to distract ourselves and trigger ourselves into a more race-ready, positive, or calm or relaxed state.
Richardson rode BMX until becoming a psychologist 8 years ago. He says simple physical triggers cue the brains of athletes so they know when it's time to perform.
I actually take them through almost it's almost like a meditative walkthrough, but they'll say something like, oh my gosh, I noticed that I was gritting my teeth really hard, or before I got in the starting blocks or on the starting gate, I would crack my knuckles or something like that. And so what we do is we take those behaviors and I try to link those up mentally with that positive outcome.
One of Crane's exercises is what's called getting into character. Here's how she and Richardson explain it.
She's one of the top 5 fastest in the world, period. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's just the math of it. And so we want her to be able to bring that out.
Because I'm known as probably one of the nicest people in BMX. I don't like cutting people off. I don't like, crashing. So we've kind of practiced this year is that it's okay to be mean for that 30 to 40 seconds that you're racing.
Crane's character is an aggressive rider. It's a role she reminds herself to play.
You pump yourself up, whether it's flexing or grinding your teeth or jumping up and down, yelling, whatever it is that you do, like everybody's different.
Crane's first race in Rio will be on Wednesday. When she climbs the stairs to the starting gate, she'll be in character. What will she be thinking?
Something to calm me down. Probably think about my bulldog and maybe just play a song in my head.
Just like in her practices, she says the song will likely be country. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Video journalist Chris Arciaga helped produce that story. Los Angeles is making an aggressive bid to host the Olympics in 2024. As Tyler Fingert reports, the city's delegation told the Olympic press in Rio they're up for the challenge.
Imagine the Los Angeles Coliseum once again bathed in light, hosting its third Olympic Games since 1932. A team from Southern California is in Rio de Janeiro working to make this vision a reality in 2024.
We want to see the entire world coming to LA in 2024.
But Olympic superstar Nadia Comaneci and other members of the LA delegation know it isn't simple. First, a 2-year bid process, then if awarded the Games, 7 years of preparation. So the LA Bid Committee is in Rio de Janeiro to learn about hosting one of the world's biggest events.
Seeing an event of this magnitude and this complexity for this many days is truly unique in the world of both sports and live entertainment. Sometimes there are big events that happen one day. This is 17 days. This is a Super Bowl every day for 17 days.
Hosting the Olympics would bring with it significant cost and responsibility. In Rio, officials have been criticized for the billions needed to cover security, transportation, and new facilities. It all sounded so simple years ago when Brazil's economy was strong and there were no signs of political turmoil or the Zika virus. Still, officials here insist the Games bring value to the host city and country.
In general, in the city has seen investment in Rio that you wouldn't have not seen in the next 20 years, caused by this organization of the Games.
The Games are expected to bring about 500,000 people to Brazil for this, the first Summer Olympics in South America. Around 5 million tickets have already been sold, bringing in more than $300 million in revenue. But many seats still sit empty.
I think it's also important for the country itself, for us, for our confidence. This is a developing country, this is an emerging country. This is the first time that it happens in South America. And Rio has gained a lot, and I think tourism has earned a lot as well.
Los Angeles officials insist they are better positioned to host the Games than Rio or any of their 2024 competitors because Greater LA already boasts many venues already in place, as much as 97% of what would be needed.
We have such an incredible foundation of infrastructure, housing, and facilities, we can spend 7 years worrying about delivery.
Instead, that focus is being spent on improving the athletes' experience. Over the last several weeks, they've held town hall meetings to find out what competitors have liked and didn't like about previous Olympics.
We're garnering their input, their support, understanding what they would see, love to see changed in the games, what they loved about their games, and bringing that all home to Los Angeles and putting that into our bid plan.
Americans walking the streets of Rio like the idea of the Summer Olympics returning to the United States for the first time since 1996.
I think that it's great. I think I love seeing all the diversity in different countries, and I would love to see it come to the United States.
We haven't had a Games for so long. I think it would be really special.
And while the decision is more than a year away, they are quick to imagine an Olympic return to Southern California.
America is definitely changing. I would definitely want to incorporate a lot of the Hollywood aspects of things.
I would hope that they would take all the different flavors that we have in our country and just kind of combine them.
The city is expected to release more specifics about paying for the games in October during the next phase of the bidding process. LA hopes to not only win the bid to host the 2024 Olympics, they're hoping to make the experience better for everyone involved.
That was Tyler Fingert reporting from Cronkite News. The Olympic host city will officially be selected in September of next year. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.